What's up, Fear fans, and welcome back to another episode of Fear the Walking Dead as we talk the discussion and what went down tonight, and if we're still enjoying what's going down. So, Fear the Walking Dead, this is Season 6, Episode 4, it's called The Key, and I just want to say that John Dory, that character in tonight's performance was just stellar in my eyes. It was a very simplistic episode in a sense, but I just thought he did a wonderful, wonderful job, especially that scene with him and the rabbi later on in the episode. It was just great emotion and just kind of showing what he was going through. So let's talk about how John got to that point and why he was so emotional, what's going down. So what's been interesting in this Season 6 is we're trying to find out where all our friends have been scattered to in the winds, right? All of Virginia's little settlements. And as they perform their tasks and duties and this and that, looks like John is a ranger now in one of her posse groups, right? He lays down the law in the city or little town, if you want to call it Lawton, okay? And I think that's where Virginia spends most of her time. So he's got a pretty decent position, and he seems like he's going through the motions, and he's actually starting to believe in what he's doing. In fact, he's writing June, knowing that he will probably never see her again. He at least is trying to communicate with her with secret letters through the laundry lady, Janice. And Janice was one of their crew before, right? So he feels he can trust her. So at least he's communicating. So things kind of get spiral out of control in a way when it's been like over 240 some odd plus days and someone has finally died in their town. And it was the way he was found. So his name was Cameron. We didn't really get to know him that well, whatever. But the point was how he was found. He was found on the perimeter barbed wire fence, and zombies were just gnawing at him and getting after it. And it was just the way it looked, it just smelled of rotten right away, okay? And when we saw Virginia finally get up to the scene, and she's like, oh, don't worry about it, we got it covered. And John's like, no, we gotta corner this off. We gotta check out this crime scene, see what's going on. I mean, he's playing his role of the detective, the cop that he used to be. And I thought that was great, but you could totally smell the stink coming from Virginia. I mean, you knew something was rotten immediately, just her whole manner and just how she was going about it. You're like, something is so dirty here. Anyways, as we fast forward through the episode, it didn't take long for us to understand that she was clearly hiding somebody, but why and for what is the true questions. And I guess she already had the ass at Janice anyway, so they basically used her as a scapegoat. So John found one of these earrings at the crime scene, and lo and behold, as they find Janice just happening to try and escape in the middle of the day, mind you. I mean, she must have been desperate as all hell. I guess she knew it was coming. John checks her bag and finds the other matching earring. So the evidence is looking pretty crappy against Janice. We're kind of feeling bad for her because you can totally tell she is taking a rap for something that she did not do. And so Janice and Cameron apparently had a thing going. They were together, and I guess they were both lonely, and they figured, why not? Let's be lonely together, I think as she called it. And I guess they get this idea, maybe we can escape. We'll get enough food, we'll get some gas together, we got a bike stowed away, and they'll ride off into the sunset and hopefully never be seen again. It's a nice story, but we all know that never really goes to plan. And ultimately, Janice gets stuck with this murder rap for Cameron, which sounds like complete bullcrap. And we can just smell the dirtiness coming off of Virginia. And I also wanted to point out, too, why is Janice confessing? Why is she giving in? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I was hoping that later on in the episode, it would reveal more to us and understanding why is she doing this? I mean, did they say, if you don't do this, then we're going to kill John, or maybe we'll kill June too, or whatever, we'll hurt John in another way? I mean, was she protecting him in some way? But I mean, because she just kept saying, I'm okay, I'm ready to go. She lost her previous either boyfriend or husband Tom or whatever, and then now Cameron, and she's just done. She's okay with checking out. But John's just like, no, this is stupid. You're giving in to something that's not even yours. Especially when he found out the information after his graveyard encounter, as I like to call it, where those zombies fell in. That wasn't the smartest move. Sorry, Johnny boy. You need to be a little bit more eyes open on that one. But he did make it out with a very close encounter of two zombies. And he finds that bone fragment from that knife, which he ends up finding out after going on a little search with Victor, that the knife had been checked out. Of course, the page is conveniently tore out, just out of a detective drama movie or something like that, right? And so the knife cannot be found. We don't know who it was checked out to, but we just have the fragment, and we know it was... so if we ever find that knife, then we know we're in business. We know who did the murder. But until we find that, because he found that the neck was slashed. So I assume that's what he was looking for. Unfortunately, that evidence was pretty much torn away once the zombies got in there, and I guess they ripped at him a little bit when John was blocking with the zombie. So it didn't quite work out, but John knows. He knows something is wrong here. And since he knows Janice and he has feelings for her in a friendship way, he doesn't want to let this go down. He doesn't want to turn the blind eye, which I feel was a big part of tonight's episode. It's talking about that even though you're doing your job, but you're turning your head to what's really going on, right? And Victor, he plays perfect into that role. He's such a little rat, and I'm really disliking Victor right now. I mean, I don't believe in what he's doing. He's a snake. You don't know which way he's going to turn at any point, and I don't like him. And that ass beating that, at least I call it that John gave him later in the episode after Victor was kind of playing his little roots and, in a way, yes, protecting John, but that's not what John's about. He didn't want that, and it ultimately caused Janice's death, I'm sure, in the end. And he told me he's beating him. He first hit him with that gun, which is great. I was just like, oh, it's on, bro. And then he gets some more punches in, and he's like, you killed her. You killed Janice. And I can't help it every time I hear Janice. I think of Terrible Terry Tate. Hey, Janice. But if you ever get a chance, look him up. It's hilarious. Look up the Hey Janice bit. It's very good. But but again, tonight's episode showing just his detective skills as he's going through and trying to figure out, again, yes, a very simplistic deal, and just kind of showing, you might be thinking, well, show more zombies. Well, it's about drama. They can't show just zombies killing people every single episode, and although there were some that did die, including Cameron, poor Janice, so she gets it, and let's talk about how she gets it. So, John's finally, as he's figuring out that, there's some bad things going on in this town. Even Dakota is calling out her own sister. He's like, my sister's up to something. So I'd like to know why Dakota is so hell-bent on getting her sister out of power. Maybe because she just realizes she's evil, and that's a good enough reason for me. But I wonder if there's something more. Did something happen? Did something she saw in the past? Probably stumbled upon. But John is having a really close talk with the rabbi after Cameron's funeral, this and that, and he pretty much knows what he has to do, which is he needs to set Janice free and let her get as far away, hopefully, as possible. Mind you, she would probably be hunted down anyways. I highly doubt she would get away, but there was a plan with some gas and a bike that was stowed away, so maybe she could get away. It's possible. I mean, that bike could definitely probably outget those horses, at least for a while, until she's hidden and far away, but I digress. So he says, I'm going to go set her free, and, I'm willing to take whatever consequences come my way. And I just loved his performance, and I thought it was amazing. But anyways, he gives that letter, and he says, make sure June gets this. I mean, he's willing to pretty much cash out if he has to do what is right. And I want to point out that conversation he had about his dad. I mean, all the motives, I call this great storytelling, because at least it makes sense. It makes sense for John's character. You feel that for him as a detective, as a good human being, trying to do what is right. And when you find out what his dad did and how he planted that evidence in that one case, which they knew the guy was guilty, but they just couldn't stick it. They couldn't prove it in our court of law, which sucks. Anyways, in America, don't get me started there. But he ends up planting the evidence to get the conviction. I mean, that's pretty low. It's low. And I think it said his other officers didn't think they could trust him anymore. He spiraled into a deep depression, left the mom and John as well, went north, started drinking a ton, and I guess met his demise. Who knows? But yeah, I thought that was just really cool part of the story for John, and just really understanding him even more, which I already kind of liked his character anyways, especially when he went out there to find Janice. And of course, just putting the icing on the cake, the rabbi had told him that, well, she was to be executed at daybreak, so dawn, more or less, right? And instead of that, when John goes to her cell to find her, she's not there. And it looks like they decided to move that execution up by several hours, in the middle of the night, in fact. How dirty do you need to get? Now, of course, we didn't really need this to know that Virginia was dirty. It's pretty much a given. Seeing the half-torn body out there, I was like, well, maybe it wasn't Janice, right? No, it was Janice, all right. And her other half was on the other side, fully turned, and they had the music playing, just how Virginia had explained that one scene in her mind when they called out somebody who had did something bad, and to make an example, they tied the person up and they blared the music, and the dude was like picked completely, off of all of his human flesh or whatever, just a bony mess. And he did the same thing ultimately to her. They just didn't have enough time to finish. I don't like Virginia. I want to hate her, and I do hate her as a character. She does a pretty good job. It's also something about just her face in general and her little smirky attitude. number one, she is a horrible leader. So, I mean, she could at least try and pretend like the governor did. The governor at least tried. I mean, he pretended like he was a good man, you know, and of course on the inside he was totally messed up. But at least he gave off a facade that maybe I'm not a total loser. Virginia is just the worst, in my opinion, but whatever. I'd like to know what you guys thought about tonight's episode. What did you think about John's performance? Did it stick to you? Did you feel something for him? Or was this just going in opposite direction you thought it would? So far, I think the season's solid. We're obviously in. If you're in this far, you're probably going to finish it out, I would imagine. I was just kind of looking just to take a look at the scores. So for Fear the Walking Dead, they're currently still at a 6.9, which is fairly legit, especially for a series that's been going on this long, and you had The Walking Dead before that too. So I have a feeling we're gonna see some more out of these characters. But yeah, how Virginia and they're gonna take her down, because it looks like a lot of people were trying to kind of fit their roles. And furthermore, for John doing his duty, as Virginia called it, as she called him out in a big town hall meeting, pretty much saying he's the man, signs him up for one of those little keys, just like Victor. So now we got two of these crew guys. Who are like her right hand men, excuse me, and you could tell it's just tearing him up. He cannot believe what's going down. He wants every fiber of his body just to yell out against this woman, but he doesn't. And she says, and with that, special privileges. And I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what Victor feeds off of. You know, this is not what John feeds off of. She wants him to. Virginia wants it to happen. So, but then one of the next scenes, John wakes up, knock at the door, and June has been transferred to the Lawton settlement so that she can be there. And you know, they're playing that song in the background, which again I was just kind of hearing. It was an old time song or whatever. I think it was one of the same songs, or it's very similar to when Janice was getting eaten, but either way. But there was actually some messaging in there about it says something about how, like, doesn't matter what happens, I always want you, or something of the sorts. But obviously it's John's position and he just wants June back. But is he going to be able to turn that blind eye, or turn eye, you know, against what is going down in Lawton? And I have a feeling no, it's not, and it's probably going to hurt him in the end. So hopefully he can get outcasted or something, or escape, get out there with Morgan, start kicking more ass. In fact, let's talk about that right quick. Morgan, and he's on the road, and that car crash. How many of you were startled as all hell? Because I was just did not see that coming. I mean, especially in the apocalypse, what are the chances of somebody hitting you? Well, it seems these guys were aiming for Morgan because they're trying to get that key. In fact, it was those two losers that were outside that submarine with the beginning is the end messaging, right? They're trying to look for the other key because it unlocks something. What does it unlock, though? And boy, do these two boys pick the wrong guy to mess with, because Morgan just rips open the one dude's stomach. Done deal. And I will admit the other guy almost had an upper hand, but Morgan worked that shit out too. Stabbed him decently with the other end of his staff, and or his whatever cleaver staff, I guess we could call it. And that was lights out. But he's like, what does this key do? So I heard some. I think a couple people were talking about it in some of the feed, that it could possibly open up like nuclear codes, or maybe even the chance to launch a nuclear weapon, which could obviously end a lot of people, or the remaining people that are left in this Walking Dead universe. So that's a theory. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's more than a theory. Maybe that's actually fact. If you do know, go ahead and mention it again, because I've kind of lost track of it myself. But yeah, I think this was a fun episode. Good times. I'd give it an easy 8.5, just because I thought it was just great dialogue and story building for John in general, and also showing us more things about how the town is being run and things like that. This is why I love episodes like this as compared to that of like World Beyond. I feel like they're showing a bunch of stuff, but it's not really telling us enough of the story. You know, and then there's just all this dialogue that just kind of convolutes everything. But they're kind of getting okay, a little bit better with each new episode, but even tonight's episode had its issues. So make sure to come back out in about an hour or so if you want to see The World Beyond and see where that one went. They're trying to cross a river and they build a boat, because that's cool. We can do that. Just like Fear the Walking Dead, they can build planes. They can build planes, then they can build boats. It makes sense, right? So thanks for coming out and watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy this short little discussion and talk on Fear the Walking Dead, Episode 4. And I guess with that said, I will see you guys at the World Beyond review. See you guys.